Croeso everybody and welcome. I'm B. Halligan and this is Lake Bala in North Wales, home of Cerridwen. I was worried about what my hair's going to look like, and then I realized the wind down here is probably going to make a mess out of it anyway, whatever I have left. And then I realized how ridiculous that thought was. I mean, one of the most beautiful places on this planet, certainly on these islands of Albion. And I'm like, what does my hair look like? It's ridiculous. Very feminine at times, but ridiculous. This is Cerridwen's Lake. I have come here for the last 10 years, worshipping the goddess, listening to her voice, in the sound of the water on the shoreline, in the sound of the leaves on the trees, in the sound of the birds, in the sound of falling nuts at the moment as well. I just had a real fright. I thought there was somebody behind me, but actually what happened is there was a nut that fell off the tree. The reason I'm frightened nowadays, and I have spent a lot of time by this lake on my own, is that I've seen a shift. This is the first time that I have come back here since COVID. And the shift is this. Where before we were able to roam freely, we are no longer welcome. Everywhere I go now, whether it's the left side or the right side of the lake, there is now a do not enter, private land, do not come near here, keep out, stay away. The house at which I stay is right at the Penillyn. For me, it is possibly the part where maybe in ancient times a lady called Cerridwen lived with her husband, Cerridwen. The story that we hear, that was written down so many hundreds of years ago, starts with, there was once a gentleman who lived with his wife, Cerridwen, at Penllyn. His name was Cerridwen. Sometimes when we think about a gentleman, that is almost an indictment of someone. As a man, to be gentle is not always seen as a very positive thing. But the word gentleman comes from the actual adjective gentle. And the words in the story are separate. It's not there once was a gentleman, it was there once was a gentleman. And to me, there is a poignancy at this moment of time about toxic masculinity and how in our story we find 4 men who are in service to the goddess, who are in service to their sovereign, who are there to protect, to guard, to keep the land. Cerridwen is the embodiment of the land. This land that has been here for many, many millennia in the form that it is in now. This is a land that cannot be owned. I just won't have it. I have had a run-in with the owner of Panteronen, a Mr. Evans. He said that we could not go through the stile. He made it very clear. He had a lot of signs out there. But one of the signs said, if you turn left by the fence, there is a little space where you can go through and then you can walk the shoreline. And that's what we did. For 20 minutes, we walked the shoreline. We gave our respect and our honor to the trees that we've honored for 10 years here on this land. The Cerridwen crew, the priestesses and priests of Cerridwen. And we looked at the landscapes. I explained to the new priestesses and priests where we had done what, about initiation, some funny stories, and the way that I initiated. And I did initiate. And what I want want you all to know, that initiation for some people means beginning. But for me, who has had many priestess lives, I remember that initiation meant ordeal. And it was an ordeal of life and death. People died during initiations. When you hear the stories of Elysius and of Athens and of all these wonderful places, West Kennet Long Barrow, you hear the stories of the people who died. I saw a vision of West Kennet Long Barrow where the people brought the priests and priests brought the young people, and they were undressed and they were covered in animal fat and colours and paints and pigments. And then they were kissed for the last time, and then they were led towards the entrance. And there the priestesses and priests of death that had come to take their rites would arrive from inside. And there they would bring them in. And they would meditate, and they would fast, and they would not be given any water or food. And they were in there for 4 nights and 4 days. And at the end, in the center, in the circle, that I believe was also a birth temple. I think women gave birth there. In the womb of the mother, the women gave birth. The young men and women would be faced with a very fierce, hot stone. Not a fire, but hot stones like we know nowadays from these sweat lodges. And we know the Celtic people loved a sweat lodge. But I do believe that, and if you've ever been in West Kennet Long Barrow, you will know that it is hardly 8 feet high and hardly big enough for 6 people to sit down. And I wonder whether they were allowed to sit down, whether they had to stand around those hot stones, sit or stand in this heat and dance and drum. And if they fell down, they may have fallen into the hot stones. They may have died there of dehydration. It happens in sweat lodges. That's why we have such security nowadays, when you have to be trained to do a sweat lodge. And I saw one initiation in my mind's eye, in my memory, whatever you want to call it, in a past life. And some of the young people would come out, and some of them would be carried out, and some of them would be buried in the land around the West Kennet Long Barrow. These people may long be forgotten, and it may be an imagination. But why would I see something like that as if I had been there? And at the dawn of the 4th day, they would be taken up on top of the Long Barrow, and they would greet the sun. And there they would meet the spirits, and the spirits would ask them a question about their journey, about their spirit journey. And if they did not have the right answer, they would not be allowed to become priestesses and priests, leaders of their community, master craftsmen, whatever was their path, they would be rejected. The answer to the question that was asked by each of the spirits would have been given to them during their time in the Long Barrow, in those 4 nights. And if you fell asleep, or you weren't paying attention, or you went elsewhere with your mind, you would not get the answer. I believe in initiation. I believe in ordeal. I believe that we have to show ourselves worthy to be priestesses and priests of the goddess, especially the dark goddess Cerridwen. There is no such thing as self-dedication as far as I'm concerned. You can dedicate yourself as much as you like, but until you're tested by her, until she has you in her sights and says to you, "Are you really sure this is what you want? Well, let me see what I can do for you. But first you must do something for me." Until we get to that point, there is no dedication, there is no being an adept, there is no initiation. I swam the lake. Against my husband's wishes. I made my will before I went. At the time I had no grandchildren, so I said goodbye to my children, and my children did not understand. But for me, I had to do this. I had no fear. I knew the goddess would not let me drown. But if you don't believe, if you are not one of the ones that is chosen to see her face, then you will be afraid. You will be fearful. And the doors will be closed to you. And it is not me that closes the doors. All I do is give you the key. Open your mind. Find your perseverance. Find your strength. The rest is up to her. She gives you the ordeal. I don't know what she wants until the day of the initiation. So here I sit at this lake, and I still haven't got a clue what she wants me to do with the second spiral. How she wants me to help them go across the threshold from their mundane life into their priestess and priest life. And here is what we do. What has been taught us in Avalon, and here in Bala, and everywhere the goddess dwells, on Moon, in Eleusis, everywhere, on Crete, in Knossos, on Goza, all those old temples that I've visited, they told me the same. Surrender and trust. If you want to be one of the chosen ones, you have to surrender and trust. And I can hear the water slapping harder at the shoreline. And I know she's listening to me. I know that each year I come here, I have to prove my worthiness to be the teacher of her truths, of her wisdom, of her knowledge. And if I pass the test, if I'm allowed, if I surrender and trust to her, she will gift me with new insights. She will gift me with new knowledge, new wisdom. Each year she fills my reservoir, she fills my cup, my chalice, my womb with her wisdom. And she does so for everyone who comes here, and truthfully and faithfully, loyally stands before her and rededicates or reinitiates and surrenders to her great power. Because power is what she has, and power is what she can gift you. Make no mistake, this is not just the goddess of change and transformation. She just doesn't throw your life in the air and says, well, let's see how you cope with that. If you listen carefully, if you have faith, if you understand her, if you understand the secrets and the language she speaks, she will show you how to manifest what is needed in your life. I know this from my own experience. If you had seen me 10 years ago, you would not have recognized the person I am now. I know that she gifts me with what I need in order to walk my path, in order to bring her name out into the world. And one of the things she gifts me are these amazing students who come year on year from all over the world, especially now that we are online as well as in person. The caliber of the women and men that step forward now as priests and priestesses of Cerridwen is phenomenal. I honor and I feel honor in that they step forward and I get to know them and they trust me to guide them. They trust me, they hold out their hand and they say to me, I walk with you. I walk with you to Cerridwen, to her lake, to her presence in Avalon. I walk with you. And sometimes I feel so humbled and a little bit overwhelmed by the gift of these incredible people. Here in Bala I sit, surrounded by the beauty of the land, the ancient land, and I will not allow anyone to stop me from walking the path that she has gifted me. And if that means I get arrested for trespassing and I get threatened by people So be it. I trust that Cerridwen will hold me safe. I hope you will do the same. Blessed be.